Today, we are going to make a case for something pretty bold, that exercise is the single most powerful health intervention we have. I mean, there's really nothing else that touches so many different parts of your body and improves them as profoundly as exercise does. So, let's get into it.
If I asked you that question, what would pop into your head first? Maybe some kind of perfect diet, a trendy superfood, a fancy new supplement? Maybe it's all about a super strict sleep routine or going on a meditation retreat. And look, all of those things can absolutely play a role in our well-being. But the science, it points to one intervention that stands head and shoulders above everything else.
And yeah, the answer, based on just a mountain of evidence, is exercise. It's the closest thing we have to a real-life magic bullet for our health. It stimulates more positive changes in more body systems than literally anything else you can do.
So to really make the case for exercise as our magic bullet, let's just dive right into the evidence. We're going to take a little tour of the human body, from your heart all the way to your head, to see exactly how physical activity gives you a complete system-wide upgrade.
Okay, let's start with the engine room, your cardiovascular system. When you follow a good exercise plan, your heart just becomes a way more efficient pump. It can move more blood with every single beat. You actually get more of those little powerhouses, the mitochondria, inside your heart muscle. Your arteries, they become healthier, more elastic, which helps lower your blood pressure. And on top of all that, your body even starts making more red blood cells, which increases your total blood volume. It is a complete overhaul of your internal plumbing.
And one of the coolest adaptations, honestly, is something called capillarization. This is where exercise literally causes your body to grow new, tiny blood vessels, capillaries, deep into your heart and your muscles. And with more of these little pipelines, you can deliver way more oxygen and nutrients, and you can clear out all that metabolic junk more effectively. It's physical proof that your body is adapting to the demands you put on it.
Now let's move on to your muscles. Cardio training, for example, makes your slow-twitch muscle fibers way more resistant to fatigue. That gives you more endurance for, well, everything. And then, of course, resistance training builds strength. This isn't just about being an athlete. Building and keeping your strength is absolutely crucial for what we call health span. The ability to move freely, avoid getting hurt, and just live independently for as long as you possibly can.
And this becomes so important as we get older. See, the muscle fibers we lose first are fast-twitch fibers. Those are the ones responsible for power and strength, and you only really engage those through higher intensity work, like lifting heavier weights. The key takeaway here is that even if you're active with daily chores or you do a lot of moderate cardio, you have to add some resistance training to fight back against that age-related decline.
So what about our skeleton? Well, as we age, our bone density naturally starts to go down. But weight-bearing exercises, things like hiking, running, or lifting weights, they put a kind of productive stress on your bones. And that stress is like a wake-up call for your bone-building cells, these little guys called osteoblasts. It signals them to get to work and start reinforcing your entire skeleton with new, dense tissue.
So, we've seen how exercise builds a stronger engine, stronger muscles, and a tougher skeleton. But the benefits? They don't stop there. It also acts like the ultimate armor, protecting both our command center, the brain, and our body's frontline defense systems. I mean, exercise is an incredibly powerful, natural antidepressant. It releases endorphins, boosts those mood-regulating neurotransmitters. It also literally sharpens your thinking and improves your memory, partly by stimulating this crucial protein called BDNF, which is basically like fertilizer for your brain cells. And by helping to regulate your body's internal clock, it helps you get deeper, more restorative sleep. It is a true, full-spectrum upgrade for your mental health.
And your immune system. It gets a huge boost too. Regular, moderate activity is like sending your immune system out on patrol. It boosts the circulation of your germ-fighting cells, making them better at finding and taking out any invaders. It also helps cool down chronic inflammation, which is a root cause of so many diseases. So what's the result? Well, active people tend to get sick less often, and when they do, they recover faster.
So, when you add up all these benefits, what's the final verdict? The evidence is just overwhelming. Exercise leads to a massive reduction in your risk of dying prematurely from pretty much every major chronic disease out there. 21%, that's a number that should really make you pause. Huge recent studies confirm that just getting the recommended 150 to 300 minutes of moderate activity each week reduces your risk of dying from any cause by a staggering 21%. There is no pill, no supplement on the planet that can even come close to that.
And what's so great about this is that there's a clear dose-response relationship. Even a little bit helps. Just 15 minutes a day cuts your risk by 14%. But the more you do, the bigger the benefit. with that risk reduction climbing all the way to 31% for people who are highly active. The key thing to remember is that every single bit of movement counts.
Now, I know some of you might be thinking, okay, but what about diet? Isn't that the most important thing? And look, diet is without a doubt a critical piece of the health puzzle, but it simply cannot do what exercise does. Let's look at why. Think of it this way. A perfect diet gives you high-quality fuel and all the right building blocks. That's essential, but it won't send a signal to your heart to become a stronger pump or tell your osteoblasts to build new bone. Diet is the fuel for sure, but exercise is the only thing that actually tunes up the engine itself. You need both, but exercise triggers adaptations that diet alone just never can.
So the case has been made, the verdict is in, so what's the sentence? Well, it's an actionable plan to put all this amazing stuff into practice.
A really effective program is built on 3 main pillars. First, you need that steady-state cardio, what people often call Zone 2, which builds your endurance base. Second, you need a small dose of high-intensity interval training, or HIIT, to really push your top-end capacity. And third, you need resistance training to build and maintain that all-important strength.
So how does that all fit together? Well, this sample week is a great template, but you should absolutely tweak it to fit your own life. You can see how it balances about 2 to 3 hours of that steady, conversational pace cardio with 2 or 3 days of strength work, splitting up the upper and lower body. And then it saves 1 day for that all-out, high-intensity effort.
And figuring out these intensities doesn't have to be complicated. For Zone 2, just use the talk test. You should be able to hold a full conversation without gasping for air. For high intensity, it should be a pretty much maximal effort. As the source material so colorfully puts it, the last 30 to 60 seconds should make you question your life decisions. And for resistance training, just focus on those big compound movements in that 6 to 10 rep range to really build strength.
So let's end with this one powerful idea. Your body is an incredible adaptation machine. It is constantly listening, constantly responding, and changing based on the demands you place on it. Exercise isn't a punishment. It's a conversation with your own biology. So the only question left is, what are you asking your body to become?